let's get into it. What this country did to the Native Americans. It was
Well,
just utter and complete slaughter, bringing over diseases and just, it was mass genocide. It was mass genocide, and we're it's interesting to see. I mean, growing up, I've always been politically aware, and I would pay attention to more things than most people. I'm
mhm.
assuming I'm assuming you did too, right? And so this was something that always stuck in my mind. But in terms of mainstream rhetoric, I'm hearing more of this, of the position that the Native Americans have always had, and it's yeah, I mean, now with what we've been hearing of all these residential schools that were popping up in Canada, there apparently there were residential schools here. So aside from the slaughter, aside from the disease, aside from taking away all these people's lands, they were also re-educating their children, and
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, well, the re-education started later. They started with a lot of rape and slaughter.
Mhm.
Uh, the Spanish started that, and everybody followed suit. But
Yeah.
let's. I mean, it depends on how far you want to dial back in history to talk about.
There's a lot
But
of shit to go over.
there was a phenomenon that happened um, not long after the original colonization of America, when there was something that historians had referred to as uh, the small ice age, in quotes.
Uh-huh.
Um,
You're referring to the Americas, like,
no, it happened in Europe.
uh-huh.
There was, well, there, I mean, it was global, but in Europe it hit them hard. That they called it a minor ice age because they lost a lot of crops, and um, the the climate was just colder than it was, and it killed a lot of crops. And there was a study recently done by um, uh, a number of different people. Like they cross, and this is the thing with academics, is like sometimes you learn more when you step out of your discipline and combine with other disciplines. So they did
Sure.
like a cross disciplinary study between geographers and historians, and they came to the conclusion, and this was actually this was a BBC article. um they came to the conclusion that the minor ice age that happened there was because they killed so many Native Americans that all the land that they were cultivating and growing, crops and growing corn, whatever, went you know went fallow, went back to forest land, and it changed the climate of the planet, and it
Wow.
it actually made temperatures drop, and it affected crops in Europe. That's how many millions of people died during the invasions of the Americas. And
Yeah.
let's take a
Mhm.
moment there to consider that. Yeah. So we're talking about fun stuff.
So I mean, the slaughter of the Native Americans, whether it's in the United States or in Latin America, Caribbean,
Yeah.
is just horrendous. And then we saw that originally there were these treaties whereby the people were being pushed off their lands, but then they were like, all right, you could stay on these lands, and we'll stick to our agreement. And so with time, more and more of those agreements were being were being violated by the U.S.
Mhm.
government and its settlers. It's a settler colonial society. We talk about settler colonialism now. That's a hot trending
Is it
term.
trending? Is it, yeah?
It's a very
Does it
trendy
have its own
term.
Instagram account?
It's a very trendy term now. Yeah, settler colonialism. Oh my god, man. Um I think there's an Instagram account called Decolonize Atlas or something like that, and it's talking about like colonization across the world. But anyways, we see then just how more and more of these lands were taken away, and more of these people died, and how just more and more of
I
their rights were taken away, and they just crumbled as a society. I mean, now they're like, I mean,
well, I mean, the thing is,
it's
it's not a mystery, and it's not something that we didn't know happened. It's just that it it's glossed over very quickly. You go to high school, American high school history class. They're like, oh yeah, 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 and we killed millions of people. And yeah, okay, but Thomas Jefferson,
Thomas
freedom,
Jefferson. Woo!
woo, freedom, America.
Freedom. Fuck
Um,
yeah.
yeah, no, I mean,
Um,
not a lot of people are aware that in in the Declaration of Independence, written mostly by Thomas Jefferson, there is a reference to the savage Indians.
mhm.
There,
And I
yeah,
think that go ahead, go ahead.
there's a mention of the merciless savage Indians.
Right, right. So I want to get to that in how that's transferred in other parts of the world, but there's also a reference, I believe it was in the Constitution. I could be wrong, but there were like in some of the founding documents of this country of what legal status um, African slaves had. They were
Oh yeah,
three
well,
fifths of human beings,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Well,
Well, that
yeah.
was no, no, that was. I mean, only after they were freed, I think. But
Okay, okay.
or no, but yeah, no, during yeah, that they in terms of like the census, whatever. But uh, you know, um, I don't know. I had a very awkward moment on a Fourth of July celebration. I
So
went
you
to.
tell your story, and I'm gonna tell a story
I'm
about
gonna.
a
Yeah.
Native American story. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if we're talking about Fourth of July stories, I went to a Fourth of July barbecue, and it was at a friend's house. Uh, and it was a mixed group, different ethnicities. There were Jews, there were Black people. Small gathering, and um, the matron of the house who was hosting the party had this tradition of like we will read the Declaration of Independence,
Wow,
and
this is here in LA.
yeah, this was in Pasadena, which is
Okay, a little more traditional of a place,
so
but
this was in Pasadena. It was my friend's mother was hosting the party. Um, interestingly enough, she's friends with uh, uh, Meghan Markle's mother. So
oh, okay.
there was a royal connection there. She did like my potato salad. So there's that. She liked my potato salad. She was
You're a
like, "Who
good
made the
cook.
spicy potato salad?"
You're a good cook. I mean,
He was like, "Who made the spicy potato salad?" But
all the spice here, right here.
yeah, I got some paprika in there. But so we went around in a circle, and each one of us like read a section of the Declaration of Independence, and it was actually her, Meghan Markle's mother, who read the section that involved the savage, merciless Indians, and then there was kind of like a brief pause. I was like, well, that was awkward.
Wow,
um,
interesting. No
it was,
commentary, I'm assuming.
it was like, okay, let's just move on. Move on. It became a little bit awkward, and then we just moved on. if you know, I mean, I wasn't going. I was a guest, so I was not
You weren't
going
gonna
to start a giant debate
you
about.
weren't gonna go all douche on them, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't going to douche out about the morality of you know, American expansion and that kind of thing.
Should have boycotted. Did you read? Did they have you?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did read sections. But I mean, that's a very you know, and that's you know, it's one of those things. It's in the Declaration of Independence. Oh, there was just a bomb outside. They're starting. They're starting the bombs.
Oh, all right, all right.
Neighborhood gets really explosive during
Cool, cool.
4th of July. So they just like start throwing. They've been throwing bombs all week.
Oh
Actually,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they start early
You're right, right.
in my neighborhood. But yeah. Anyway,
So
so your story.
my story. So there was a this was back when they NASA was trying to launch uh do their project to launch man to the moon, right? And they
Now,
went
this is
off
before
into like
Elon Musk got all up in there.
right. So they went off into the desert to do a lot of like tests with astronauts and all that stuff. And so they were they were close to where I think there was like a Native American reservation, right? And so this Native American guy sees them from a distance over a period of months or however long they were there, and he's observing. And so he goes up to them and he asks what's going on. They said we're actually training to go up to the moon, right? And so he told them, listen, so he's talking to the actual astronauts. So he told them, when you get to the moon, right, read this line. And it was in his native in a Native American language, right? And so he kept telling the same guy over and over again, and he had him memorize the line, right? And then when the guy would ask him what did it mean, he was like, I can't tell you what it means, just when you go up to the moon, say this line, right? And so
Uh,
the guy went back to his base, and apparently there was like a Native American uh, NASA, I don't know, astronaut or employee there who happened to know that language, right? And so
really?
he went to him and he was like, "Listen, I met this guy. He keeps telling. He made me memorize this line that when we go to the moon, I have to read it and all that." And he was like, "What was it?" So he read him the line, and the Native American guy starts laughing. And so he's like, "What? Why? What did it mean?" He told him that the moon is considered holy to these people, right? And
Uh,
so and they believe that there are some kind of like spirits on the moon that they have a connection to, right? And so what he was telling him was, don't trust these people. They don't keep their word with anything. They will take all your land once they arrive and start taking over the place. And so it was just
from a
like, wow,
Martian,
man. There was
the
like,
moon
yeah,
people.
it's like warning the moon spirits of these people who are gonna go and colonize the moon. So I don't know, man. That one stuck with me. It's like, yeah, yeah. It's sad. It's really sad.
A
What
little
what
bit sad.
it's sad. It's really sad. But
It's like if you
anyway,
like I'm laughing because it's sad
yeah.
and
It's
ludicrous, but if you can't laugh, like how do you continue living?